Welcome to the KPC Smart Money Podcast. I know we haven't recorded in a few weeks, so we're happy to be back. But we are new grandparents, so we had a really good excuse. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get out of debt. And, you know, that's something that faces adults, new parents, kids getting right out of college. It is something that really troubles a lot of people when it comes to their budget. And right now, Kevin, you know, with inflation and the cost of everything going so high, I've seen some of the statistics coming out that savings is going down, credit card purchases are going up. So we've got people in this time of inflation who are unfortunately in positions where they're increasing their debt. And, you know, it just seems like, I don't know about you, but, you know, it just seems when you're younger, mine was, you know, right out of college, newly married. It just seems like you get into that debt hole. Everybody does it. And you got to figure out a way to get out of it. But I really almost think that it is a good exercise to feel the pain of getting out of that debt hole once in your life so that you will make sure you don't do it again.
You know what I'm thinking about right now? When I was still in my 30s, I remember cutting up all my credit cards. I cut them all up. But you know what happens is I think you get into a rut in your spending habits.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think the most dangerous thing you could do is give a 21-year-old a credit card.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Unless they're capable of paying it off every month.
Well, yeah, it's like, okay, work is over. Let's just go to the bar and, you know, here's my credit card. Right?
Well,
you know, and so, and it just, you know, debt is like a snowball going downhill.
Yep.
Right? And so, and now the Fed is raising all the rates. So everything's going up. You know, mortgages are going up. And of course, credit card debt has always been high, no matter, you know, what the interest rate environment is like. Credit card debt is just crazy high.
Well, and, you know, and then they say, hey, just pay off this minimum. Well, that minimum is usually just the interest. You are not making any headway into the original debt. And it can just seem like it goes on forever and ever and ever. So it really is better to save money and then go do that large purchase than it is to, hey, let me just throw it on a credit card and I'll pay it off, you know, over time. So if you happen to be someone who's gone, you know, just looks at your credit cards and go, okay, I need to figure out a way to get out of that debt. This program today is for you.
Hey, Karen, you know what I'm thinking right now? Sometimes when you're talking, all these thoughts run through my head, and how it relates to us, and you know what it was like when we were younger. You know, there's certain things. You know, I think about. You know, I listening to Dave Ramsey and all that. As good as the whole idea about being, you know, not being in debt and all that. You know, we've got a guy in our Bible study that he said, you know, I've never bought anything, you know, using credit. I don't buy anything until I, you know, have the money to buy it. Well, I'm just thinking about this guy. I don't know how much money he has, but I suspect it's quite a bit. But he's driving around in this 15-year-old, you know, minivan that looks like crap. And, you know, so, I mean, you got to draw the line somewhere. I mean, I don't want to drive around in a crummy car my whole life because I'm trying so hard to stay out of debt. So sometimes, you know, using credit, if you don't overdo it, can be okay. I just want to say that. But you just have to be careful that you don't
get behind the eight ball on it.
And get into spending habits, right? You're used to having good, you know, maybe you grew up in a nice neighborhood, right? And you're used to having all the good stuff. Now you're on your own, right? And so you want the good stuff. And so credit cards is a really good way to get the good stuff.
However, it can be bad stuff if you do not have the income to pay it off. So, you know, Kevin, you mentioned that debt can be, like a snowball effect with all the interest. Well, guess what? Getting out of debt can also be done with a snowball type approach.
Okay.
Exactly.
Explain what you mean.
Okay. So baby step. Baby step number 1, make sure you have got an emergency fund. Even if it's $1,000, you've got to tuck it away in a savings account. You do not touch it. That money is for emergencies only, because emergencies happen. And when they do, if you've got that money sitting in an emergency fund, you get to pull it from there instead of being forced to put it in or on a credit card. So now you've got that emergency fund started. Let's start with baby step number 2. Paying off all your debt can just seem monumental. So instead, list all your debts, the smallest one to the largest one. Don't necessarily look at the interest rate, but attack the smallest debt, with a vengeance. Don't make those, while just making the minimum payments on the rest of your debt. So here's the idea. Let's just knock off those debts, smallest first, so that we can dwindle down the number of credit cards or debit debt balances that you have. And then when you get to, okay, I've knocked off some of these little ones, phew, at least I've got those off the list. Now you're looking at some bigger debts that are going to take a little bit of time to pay off. I would start looking at the highest interest ones first and that would be your next level of attack. Go after those higher interest ones of the debt. It's going to take you a little bit of time to pay off.
Yep. So, I was reading an article that said, don't worry about what the interest rate was. Go after the smallest one. So in other words, you have one credit card that has let's say a $5,000 balance, and it has a lower percentage rate. And then you have another one that has $10,000 in it, and it has a higher percentage rate. What would you do? Would you go after the $5,000 one, even though it has a lower, or would you go after the $10,000 one that has the lower rate? I mean, kind of makes me feel like that what you want to do with the snowball effect is just get rid of the smaller ones. Because if you look at the really, really big ones, you think, oh man, that's just too much.
So what you're doing, it takes time. What this is really about is the gratification of knocking out lower debts. Now, what I would do is I would go after the $5,000 one, and I would convert the $10,000 one over to a zero interest rate card if I could get it paid off in 18 to 24 months. But I guess really what we're saying is just have a plan. Make a list, figure out how much you can put against it, and have a plan. Now, Kevin, we see people all the time. They're coming in for financial planning, but predominantly retirement planning. And, it's easy for us to tell who's going to be successful. It's the people who are watching their expenses. So let's throw out some ideas on how to be a little bit more frugal in your living and still enjoy it. So, hey, early on, I was a coupon person. If you're a coupon person, or if you are a diligent shopper where you look at, go online and find the best prices on things, or, if you've got like Rakuten or one of those where you actually get some cash back, hey, take some time. Find what you want to get at the best price you can get it at.
So remember the Sunday paper? Nobody gets
honey,
a paper
that is
anymore.
Ancient.
So where do you get the coupons?
It's all online now.
Rakuten? What's Rakuten? Orangutan?
We're almost
what
out
is
of
that?
time, so I'm not going to go. Rakuten. It's a cash back.
Okay.
Buy stuff online, and the
right.
retailers will actually give you some cash back.
Okay, so next week, after we figure out what orangutan is, is, yeah, we're going to talk about some other ideas
for living
Karen,
frugally.
before we stop this, I just want to maybe think about something else. We had two couples in the last few weeks, and you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. And they both had a great deal of what we would consider a great deal, not 10 million, but over $1 million, right? And so, but their whole goal was to live a $200,000 lifestyle in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought was, you're going to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
These people are going to get in trouble. The ones that have like 300,000 completely to their name, see, financial planning 101. First, you have $1 million. Well, not everybody winds up with $1 million, right?
Right.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about how to create some habits next week, how to create a few habits while you're younger, or even now. It's never too late for an old dog to learn new tricks. We can do that. But we're going to give you some ideas next week on how to live a little more frugal lifestyle and still have fun, right?
Yep.
Okay. We'll be back next week. You're listening to the Smart Money Podcast with Kevin and Karen Christ.
You've been listening to the KPC Smart Money Podcast with Kevin and Karen Christ. To listen to more episodes, visit kpcsmartmoney.com. You can also find the KPC Smart Money Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher.
KPC Financial Solutions is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through KPC Financial Solutions, LLC, a registered investment company. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any reference to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. KPC Financial Solutions is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by KPC Financial Solutions. Hypothetical examples have been provided for illustrative purposes only. It does not represent a real-life scenario and should not be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation.